Hello, listeners of the latest episode. Welcome to the new chapter of our story.
11 days of signals intelligence, topographical analysis, and pattern recognition finally gave Jennifer Santos what she needed: coordinates. The Hunter production facility was buried in the mountains 37 miles west of Denver, hidden inside an abandoned Cold War bunker that didn't appear on any civilian maps. The kind of place the government built in the 1960s to survive nuclear war, then quietly forgot about when the funding dried up. Webb had found it, retrofitted it, turned it into a laboratory for transforming humans into weapons. Single access point through a mountain tunnel. Jennifer briefed the leadership team, displaying satellite imagery on a salvaged laptop. Concrete reinforced structure built to withstand direct nuclear strikes. Estimated garrison of 30 to 40 personnel based on supply convoy patterns. Unknown number of hunters in various stages of development. John studied the imagery. The facility was a fortress. Assaulting it would require everything the Resistance had learned in 3 weeks of guerrilla operations, and everything they'd abandoned after the triple strike disaster killed 17 people. "We need coordination," David Chen said, stating the obvious problem: multiple teams working in synchronized phases, communication during the operation, central command making real-time decisions. Everything that got people killed last time. "Everything we're better at now," John corrected. "We've learned Webb's patterns. We have Anderson feeding him false intelligence. We've eliminated 4 hunters and studied their capabilities. We're not going in blind this time." Michael nodded slowly. "We use Anderson to convince Webb we're hitting Fort Carson. Get him to pull forces from the mountain facility to defend his more visible installation. Strike the lab while it's undermanned." 40 fighters, John said. 4 teams. Alpha breaches the tunnel entrance. Bravo secures upper levels. Charlie, my team, hits the laboratories and destroys the transformation equipment. Delta provides external security and extracts any prisoners. It was ambitious, the largest operation the Resistance had attempted since the triple strike, but destroying the Hunter production facility was worth the risk. Every day it operated, Webb created more of the tracking weapons that were systematically eliminating guerrilla cells across Colorado. Thomas Anderson understood what was being asked of him. "I'll make Webb believe Fort Carson is the target. I've been reliable for 4 months. He trusts my intelligence. I tell him you're consolidating for a major assault on his primary base. He'll reinforce it. You're gambling your daughter's life on this," Chen said quietly. "If the operation fails, if Webb realizes he's been deceived. Sarah's already lost if we don't stop the Hunter production," Anderson interrupted. "Webb's using her as leverage because the Hunters give him power. We destroy that power. Maybe we change the equation." The logic was sound, but John saw the desperation in Anderson's eyes, a father clinging to hope that somehow destroying one facility might cascade into saving his daughter. The transmission went out 36 hours before the scheduled assault. Anderson's most detailed intelligence package yet, force estimates, approach vectors, timing windows, all pointing to Fort Carson as the target. Webb's response came within 12 hours. Proof of life for Sarah. A 10-second video showing her still human, still uninfected, and tactical redeployment orders that Jennifer intercepted. 20 soldiers moving from the mountain facility to reinforce Fort Carson's defenses. The trap was set. 16 hours before the assault, Anderson received a transmission that hadn't been scheduled. John was in the armory conducting equipment checks when Jennifer found him. "We have a problem. Webb just contacted Anderson directly. Unscheduled communication. He's testing him." They listened to the recording together. Webb's voice cold and professional. "Asset echo. We've detected unusual activity suggesting coordinated resistance planning. Radio chatter patterns indicate potential major operation. Confirm or deny preparations for assault on Fort Carson." A long pause. Then Anderson's voice, steady despite what must have been racing thoughts. "Confirmed. Resistance is consolidating forces. Best intelligence suggests they're planning to hit Fort Carson within 48 hours. Command structure believes they can overwhelm your defenses with concentrated assault." "Interesting," Webb said. "And you're certain Fort Carson is the target, not, for example, the secondary facility in the mountains?" Another pause. Longer this time. John could hear Anderson's breathing over the recording. "I've heard no intelligence suggesting the mountain facility is even known to resistance leadership," Anderson finally said. "Fort Carson has been their focus since the triple strike disaster. They see it as your primary base, your command center. That's what they want to destroy." "Very well," Webb said. "Asset Echo, I should inform you that your daughter's conditioning is accelerating. We've begun preliminary transformation protocols. Modified infection has been introduced at low levels. You have 72 hours to provide actionable intelligence on resistance command structure, specifically Captain Martinez's current location, or the transformation will be completed." The transmission ended. Jennifer stopped the playback. Webb is accelerating Sarah's transformation, using it as pressure to get Anderson to reveal our base location. "How long until transformation is irreversible?" John asked. "Dr. Morrison estimates day 7 is the point of no return. After that, the cognitive restructuring is too complete to reverse. Webb said he's just started, so Sarah's probably day 1 or 2, which gives us 5 or 6 days, John finished. The facility assault happens in 16 hours. Even if we succeed, we're still 4 days from Webb's deadline." "Anderson knows," Jennifer said. "He has to decide if destroying the facility is worth gambling that we can somehow rescue Sarah before the 72 hours expire." John thought about impossible choices, about the weight of command, about Anderson's face when he looked at his daughter's photographs. "Does he want to abort?" John asked. "I don't know. I came to you first. But John, if Anderson tells us to abort, are you going to do it?" It was a fair question. 40 fighters were preparing for the largest operation since the triple strike. Equipment staged, routes planned, lives committed to the assault. All based on Anderson's intelligence putting Webb's forces in the wrong position. If they aborted now, the Hunter facility remained operational. Webb would continue producing the weapons that were hunting resistance fighters across Colorado. More people would die in smaller operations, picked off one team at a time. But if they continued, and Anderson's deception failed, if Webb suspected the mountain facility was the real target, 40 people would walk into a reinforced garrison prepared for their assault. "Bring Anderson here," John said. "We make this decision together." Anderson arrived 10 minutes later. He looked like he'd aged years in the 16 hours since his transmission to Webb. "You heard the recording," Anderson said. It wasn't a question. "Webb's accelerating Sarah's transformation," John confirmed, "putting pressure on you to reveal our location, and he's testing whether you know about the mountain facility." "I sold it," Anderson said. "Convinced him Fort Carson is the target. He's moving forces to defend it. The assault can proceed as planned." "Can it?" Chen asked, entering the war room with Michael. "Webb just told you that Sarah has 72 hours before transformation is irreversible. Our assault happens in 16 hours. Success or failure, the mission will be complete within 24 hours. That leaves 48 hours before Webb's deadline. 48 hours to somehow rescue a 16-year-old girl from Webb's custody before she becomes a hunter." Michael added, "That's assuming we survive the facility assault, assuming we find out where Sarah is being held, assuming Webb doesn't just accelerate the transformation when he realizes he's been deceived." Anderson's hands were shaking. "What are you saying? That we should abort?" "I'm saying you need to make a choice," John said. "Not for the resistance, for yourself. You've sacrificed everything for Sarah. Your integrity, your loyalty, your honor. You've carried the guilt of 21 deaths because you chose your daughter over the community. Now you're being asked to choose again. We abort the mission. Sarah stays alive longer," Chen said. "Webb keeps using her as leverage, but she's not actively being transformed. You have more time to find a way to save her. We proceed with the mission. We destroy Webb's ability to create hunters," Michael said. "We cripple his operations, save countless lives, but Sarah might become a hunter before we can reach her." Anderson looked at each of them. "You're asking me to choose between my daughter and 40 resistance fighters." "No," John said. "We're asking you to choose what kind of world Sarah lives in if we do manage to save her. A world where Webb has unlimited hunter production and the resistance is slowly eliminated, or a world where we've destroyed his weapons factory and proven we can fight back effectively." "That's easy logic when it's not your daughter," Anderson said bitterly. "You're right," John agreed. "It is. I don't have children. Don't know what I'd do in your position. But I do know that Webb is betting on you choosing Sarah over the mission. He's counting on that choice. He's using it to control you." Anderson was quiet for a long moment. Then, "If we destroy the facility, does that change Webb's calculus? Does it make Sarah less valuable as leverage?" "Maybe," Chen said. "Without hunter production, Webb's power decreases. He might be more willing to negotiate, or he might accelerate Sarah's transformation out of spite." "Unknowable," Jennifer added. "We can't predict Webb's psychology. We can only make tactical decisions based on available information." Anderson pulled out the photographs of Sarah, looked at her face. 16 years old, playing guitar, holding birthday cake, living a normal life in the world before the outbreak destroyed normal. We proceed with the mission. Anderson finally said, "We destroy the facility, and then we have 48 hours to find Sarah and extract her before transformation completes. If we fail, if she becomes a hunter, then I've lost her anyway. But at least we'll have stopped Webb from creating more of them." He put the photographs away. "Just promise me something. If we do find Sarah, if she's already transformed, if she's too far gone to save, promise me you won't make her suffer. Promise me it'll be quick." John wanted to say they'd find a way to reverse the transformation, to save Sarah before it was too late. But he'd learned not to make promises he couldn't keep. "I promise," John said simply. Anderson nodded, left the war room without another word. He just chose the mission over his daughter. Chen said quietly, "That's the kind of choice that breaks people." "He chose both," John corrected. "He's gambling that destroying the facility creates opportunities to save Sarah. It's desperate and probably doomed, but it's not surrender." 12 hours until assault, Michael said, checking his watch. "We should get some rest. It's going to be a long night." But none of them slept. They spent the remaining hours checking equipment, reviewing plans, preparing for the largest coordinated operation the Resistance had attempted since everything went wrong. Team Alpha breached the tunnel entrance at 0200 hours exactly. John listened to Michael's reports over the radio net they'd established for the operation, the first time they'd used open communications during an assault since the Triple Strike disaster. "Alpha is inside. 2 guards neutralized. Tunnel is clear for 50 meters. Advancing to first security checkpoint." The facility's defenses were lighter than expected. The garrison had been reduced when Webb redeployed forces to Fort Carson. Anderson's deception was working. "Bravo is moving to upper-level entry points," another voice reported. "Preparing breaching charges on secondary access doors." John led Team Charlie, 12 fighters, the best they had, toward the primary objective. The laboratories, the transformation chambers where humans became hunters. "Charlie is approaching level 2, John transmitted. "No contact yet. Facility seems undermanned." Too undermanned. John's instincts whispered warnings, but they'd committed to the operation. 40 fighters inside the bunker now, moving through a facility that should have been heavily defended. Team Bravo's breaching charges detonated simultaneously. Bravo is inside upper levels, encountering light resistance, clearing rooms now. Alpha reported reaching the first security checkpoint. 4 guards, eliminated in a brief firefight. Minimal resistance. Charlie descended to level 3. The laboratories. The doors were reinforced steel, magnetically locked. John's team placed shaped charges, blew the locks, breached into sterile white corridors that belonged in a hospital, not a military bunker. "Charlie has entered laboratory section," John reported. "Multiple rooms visible, searching for transformation chambers." They cleared rooms methodically. Equipment storage, medical supplies, computer servers, empty holding cells with reinforced doors and restraint systems. Then they found the transformation chambers. 6 rooms, each containing a medical table with heavy-duty restraints, surgical equipment, IV stands, monitoring systems, Everything needed to introduce modified infection in controlled doses and manage the transformation from human to hunter. 5 of the chambers were empty. The 6th contained a subject. Dr. Morrison, who'd insisted on being part of Charlie team despite not being combat trained, approached the occupied chamber. "We have an active transformation in progress. Subject appears to be day 3 or 4, based on physiological changes, enhanced muscle development, visible, skin showing early modification patterns." John entered the chamber. The subject was female, approximately 16 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, restrained on the table with straps designed to hold something much stronger than a normal human. Vital signs monitoring showed accelerated heart rate, elevated body temperature, neural activity patterns that were being actively modified by the infection coursing through her bloodstream. Sarah Anderson was being transformed into a hunter. "Get Morrison in here," John transmitted. "We've found Anderson's daughter. She's alive. Day 4 transformation. We're extracting her." Morrison entered, began examining Sarah's condition. The transformation had advanced, but not irreversible. "We can slow it, possibly stop it if we can get the proper equipment. But she needs immediate treatment." "Delta, we need immediate extraction," John transmitted to the external security team. "Prepare medical transport. We're bringing out a transformation subject who needs critical care." While Morrison worked to stabilize Sarah, John continued searching the laboratory. Found a computer terminal still active. Personnel rosters, transformation logs, subject documentation. That's when he found the file that stopped his breathing. Hunter Program, Subject Roster, 12 entries, 12 people transformed into hunters. Most were unknown. Survivors Webb's people had captured during raids. Names John didn't recognize, but 4 names he did. Subject 009, Marcus Webb Jr., age 22, captured during reconnaissance operation, day 12, transformation complete, deployed as Hunter number 6. Subject 010, Jennifer Park, age 27, captured during coordinated strike operation, day 12, transformation complete, deployed as Hunter number 9. Subject 011, Thomas Park, age 31, captured during coordinated strike operation, day 12, transformation complete, deployed as Hunter number 3. And at the bottom of the list, Subject 013, Rachel Martinez, age 18, multiple GSW, estimated time of death, 17 minutes post-injury. John's vision narrowed. Rachel, the girl who died 3 weeks ago leading a recon team, whose body was never recovered, who John had mourned, buried an empty coffin for, carried guilt over losing. He clicked on her file, read the transformation log with hands that had started shaking. Subject 013, detailed analysis, recovery, subject found at compromised field station, multiple gunshot wounds, severe blood loss, estimated 15 to 17 minutes post-mortal injury, revival protocol initiated, modified infection introduced during cellular death process, unexpected cellular regeneration observed. Subject revived 37 minutes after estimated time of death. Neural preservation. Unlike standard transformation subjects, Subject 013 retained significant pre-death cognitive function. Brain scans show 73% preservation of neural pathways, personality structures, and acquired knowledge. Strategic value. Subject possesses military training, tactical knowledge, and detailed information about resistance operations and personnel. Cognitive retention allows for specialized conditioning beyond standard hunter protocols. Transformation timeline. Day 1, revival and stabilization. Day 3, enhanced physical development initiated. Day 5, cognitive restructuring and conditioning begun. Day 8, combat training utilizing retained military knowledge. Day 12, transformation complete, field deployment authorized. Current status, Hunter number 12, deployed to resistance leadership elimination operations. Subject demonstrates exceptional tracking capability and tactical decision-making, retains memories of resistance personnel, base locations, and operational patterns. Classified as highest value hunter asset. John read it twice, 3 times, trying to process what the clinical language was describing. They'd found Rachel dying, used the modified infection to restart her body's functions, transformed her while enough of her brain was still active to preserve her memories, her personality, her training. Rachel wasn't dead. She was a hunter, had been for 3 weeks while John mourned her and fought in her name and tried to honor her sacrifice. And worse, far worse, she retained her memories, knew the resistance, knew John, knew their tactics, their people, their locations. Webb had turned her into a weapon specifically designed to destroy everything she'd fought to protect. John, Morrison's voice pulled him back. We've stabilized Sarah. She's unconscious, but her vitals are improving. We can move her. Are you, John, what's wrong? John couldn't speak, couldn't process what he'd discovered. Just handed Morrison the tablet displaying Rachel's file. Morrison read it. His face went pale. Oh, God. Rachel's alive. She's been alive this whole time. Webb transformed her into... Hunter number 12. John finished, his voice hollow. Currently deployed to resistance leadership elimination operations. She's out there right now, hunting us, using everything we taught her to kill people she used to protect. Michael's voice came over the radio. Charlie, we've secured the upper levels. Alpha has control of the tunnel. Facility is ours. We're ready to begin demolition. John forced himself to function. Roger that. Begin placing demolition charges. Set for 30-minute delay. We're extracting a critical prisoner and data archives. Prepare for full evacuation. While Morrison and 2 others carried Sarah toward the extraction point, John downloaded every file from the laboratory computers. Transformation protocols, subject rosters, hunter deployment schedules, Webb's research notes, everything. In the data, he found current hunter positions, a map showing active deployments across Colorado. Hunter number 12's last known position, 15 miles from the resistance base in Denver. Rachel was close, and according to the mission parameters in her deployment file, she was hunting for John specifically. Webb had sent her to eliminate resistance leadership, had programmed her to use her memories of John, her knowledge of his tactics, her understanding of how he thought. The girl John had trained was now the perfect weapon to kill him. Charlie team, moving to extraction. John transmitted. All teams prepare to evacuate. Demolition sequence begins in 5 minutes. They carried Sarah through corridors filling with smoke as demolition charges began their countdown. 40 resistance fighters extracting from a facility they'd successfully captured, carrying the daughter of a traitor and the evidence that one of their fallen heroes had been transformed into a monster. The charges detonated as they reached the tunnel entrance, a series of explosions that collapsed the mountain bunker's internal structure, destroyed the transformation chambers, and buried Webb's hunter production facility under thousands of tons of rock. The resistance had won, destroyed Webb's ability to create new hunters, rescued Sarah Anderson before transformation completed, recovered critical intelligence about Project Lazarus operations. But as they drove back toward Denver in the pre-dawn darkness, John couldn't stop thinking about Rachel, about what she'd become, about the fact that somewhere out there, Hunter number 12 was tracking them, using memories of friendship and training to hunt down everyone she'd once called family. They'd destroyed the facility, but they'd also discovered that the cost of the war was higher than anyone had imagined, because the people they thought they'd lost weren't always dead. Sometimes they were worse than dead. Sometimes they were weapons. The community was gathering for a victory celebration when John returned. First successful coordinated operation since the triple strike. 0 friendly casualties. Hunter production facility destroyed. Webb's capabilities significantly degraded. Chen was organizing the celebration. Michael was directing the unloading of equipment and data archives. Dr. Morrison was working frantically to stabilize Sarah Anderson and reverse her partial transformation. Anderson stood outside the medical tent where his daughter was being treated, looking shell-shocked. He'd gambled everything on a desperate plan, and somehow it had worked. Sarah was alive, still human, still savable. "Thank you," Anderson said when John approached. "You kept your promise. You found her, brought her back." "We got lucky," John said. "Webb reduced the garrison to defend Fort Carson. If he'd reinforced the mountain facility instead, we'd have walked into a massacre." "Luck or strategy doesn't matter. My daughter's alive because you led that assault." Anderson paused. "Jennifer told me about the files you found, about the other subjects. I'm sorry. I know some of them were your people." John didn't respond. Couldn't talk about Rachel yet. The discovery was too fresh, the implications too devastating. "There's going to be a briefing in 1 hour," Chen said, approaching them. "We need to share the intelligence we recovered, show the community what we found inside that facility." The briefing was held in the central meeting area. 64 survivors gathered to hear about the Resistance's greatest victory since Denver General Hospital. Chen presented the tactical success. Facility destroyed, Sarah Anderson rescued, 0 friendly casualties. Proof that coordinated operations could succeed when properly planned and executed. Michael covered the intelligence recovered. Webb's network of facilities. Project Lazarus organizational structure. Locations of other hunter deployment zones. Then John stood up to present the most critical finding. The discovery that would change how the Resistance understood the war they were fighting. "We found transformation logs," John began. "Documentation of every hunter that Webb created. 12 subjects total. Most were captured survivors we didn't know, but 4 were people we thought we'd lost in previous operations. He displayed the names on a recovered tablet, projected onto a makeshift screen. Marcus Webb Jr. captured 3 weeks ago during Rachel's recon operation, transformed into Hunter number 6. A murmur went through the crowd. People who'd known Marcus, mourned him, were now learning he'd been turned into a weapon. Jennifer and Thomas Park, captured during the Triple Strike disaster, transformed into Hunters 9 and 3. More shocked reactions. The Park siblings had been part of Chen's original Colorado Springs group, trusted fighters who'd been listed as killed in action. John paused before displaying the last name, took a breath, forced himself to say the words. Rachel Martinez, age 18, captured 3 weeks ago at the field station. We thought she died there. We were wrong. He displayed Rachel's transformation log. Read the key sections aloud. Revival protocol, neural preservation, 73% cognitive retention. The community went silent. Rachel had been beloved. Her sacrifice had inspired them to keep fighting. And now they were learning she'd never died at all. Webb used the modified infection to revive Rachel after she was critically wounded. John continued, his voice steady, despite the emotions churning beneath. The transformation preserved most of her memories, her personality, her training. Hunter number 12 retains Rachel's tactical knowledge, her understanding of our operations, her memories of all of us. He displayed the current deployment map. She's active, 15 miles from our base. Mission parameters indicate she's hunting resistance leadership. Webb sent her specifically to eliminate me and other command personnel. She's using everything we taught her to destroy everything she fought for. Can she be saved? Someone asked. If you rescued Anderson's daughter from Day 4 transformation, can you reverse Rachel's conditioning? Morrison stood up to answer. Sarah Anderson was caught early. Day 4 is challenging but reversible with the proper treatment. Rachel is Day 12. Full transformation, complete cognitive restructuring, weeks of conditioning. I don't know if we can bring her back from that. But you'll try. Another voice called out. If we can capture her, yes, Morrison said. But understand what you're asking. Hunter number 12 isn't just a modified infected we can restrain and treat. She's a highly trained tactical operative who knows our capabilities, our tactics, our people. Capturing her will be extraordinarily dangerous. And she's hunting us, Michael added. Webb programmed her to eliminate resistance leadership. We don't have the luxury of waiting. She's coming whether we're ready or not. John thought about Rachel, about the 18-year-old who'd volunteered for the recon operation, who'd died, or seemed to die, covering her team's retreat, who'd been so proud when John called her brave. Now she was a weapon coming to kill him, using the training he'd given her, remembering the tactics they'd practiced together, knowing exactly how he thought, how he fought, how he led, the perfect counter to everything that made John effective. We prepare, John said. We study her deployment patterns from the data we recovered. We identify her likely approach vectors. We set up detection systems and defensive positions. And when she comes, we try to capture her alive. And if we can't? Chen asked. John thought about his promise to Anderson, about making it quick if there was no way to save someone who'd been transformed. Then we do what we have to do, John said, but we try capture first. Rachel deserves that chance. We owe her that much. The briefing ended. People dispersed to celebrate the facility's destruction while processing the horrifying news about Rachel and the others. John stood alone, looking at Rachel's file on the recovered tablet, at the girl who'd been so alive, so determined, so brave. She was still alive, still determined, still brave in some twisted way, but she was coming to kill him. And John had no idea if he could bring himself to fight back. When she had Rachel's face, and Rachel's voice, and Rachel's memories, Hunter number 12 was 15 miles away and closing. The resistance had 3 days, maybe less, before she reached them. 3 days to prepare for the impossible task of fighting someone they loved, who'd been turned into a weapon designed specifically to destroy them. The facility was destroyed. The victory was real. But the war had just become infinitely more personal.